be in conversation first with somebody who you also are very familiar with. You know her as an iconic designer and a fashion icon, who's Donna Karan. But what you might not know about Donna is that she has also created the Urban Zen Foundation, which has 3 beautiful aspects of its mission, which is integrative health, preserving cultures, and finally creating soulful economies. So in a minute I'm going to invite them on stage after they have a conversation. Then Jack is going to remain on stage and lead us through more experiential practice of mindfulness and action. But as a way to enter into their conversation, we have a video of some of the work that Urban Zen does that we'd like to play for you now.
At the Urban Zen Foundation, we design forums, partner with existing organizations, and bring together experts to find solutions and implement change in the areas of preservation of culture, well-being, and empowering children. And we have proven what we have always believed: they are all interrelated. We believe through supporting all the artisans, we can create a sustainable model for each and every one of the cultures. We've demonstrated it with His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the work that he's done in Nobulinka, with the artisan work that Russell Dreams has done, and with the Haitian people and the product that's being developed to rebuild Haiti. Doctors and nurses are brilliant, and each one of them takes care of a disease. But who now looks at the overall person? We created the Urban Zen Integrative Therapist Program, led by Rodney Yu and Colleen Saban.
It started with thinking, well, yoga therapy can really help in the hospitals. And so what we had to do with the whole art form is distill the practices of yoga into exercises that can be done in the hospital bed, so that you can really increase the optimal environment for health and healing.
We've created a pilot study at Beth Israel Hospital and have been overwhelmed by the results of how satisfied each one of the patients, nurses, and doctors have been.
From a patient perspective, there's no question in my mind that the patients are absolutely feeling well cared for. They're definitely more satisfied with their care. And to be able to offer this in a hospital setting is so unique, and I feel like it's so cutting edge. And it annoys me that it's cutting edge because this should not be cutting edge. This should just be.
We got together some of the best experts in other fields, such as aromatherapy, Reiki, nutrition, contemplative end-of-life care with Joan Halifax.
The benefit for me has been, even at times when I'm saying I'm moving, I don't want to bother anybody today, afterwards, I feel much better. I'm more relaxed, I'm calm, in a better frame of mind.
After the enormous success, we are now taking this throughout the country. It is necessary to integrate mind, body, and spirit into our educational system today, where each and every one of our children will have the ability to access the tools that are made available to them through meditation, through yoga, and nutrition. I believe that the new modality is to bring philanthropy and commerce together. The Urban Zen retail experience is truly special. It's a place where not only dressing people, but really addressing the needs from their inside, from their mind, from their body, and from their spirit. Urban Zen is a space and a place where we can find the calm and the chaos in the world we live in today. Each and every day, the doors of Urban Zen are open to like-minded organizations who want to create change. Just as my husband Stephen did through his artwork, we connect the dots to achieve greater results. By connecting to others who are like-minded, a network is created. It's a true synergy. Connection makes the voice louder, the message clearer, and the outcome greater.
Please welcome to the Dreamforce stage, Kornfield and Moscone.
Hi, Donna. What a great pleasure for me, too. Of course, you're probably sitting here talking about Zen, and I was wondering, you're this world-famous designer, what should I wear, right? We've just watched a really beautiful vision from the work, the creativity, the mindfulness, and the service, as Larry Williams was talking about, that you developed through urban Zen, and through joining mindfulness and yoga. How does yoga fit in? Can you show us you're a yogi, can you show us a yoga posture that you use that helps you in your work? Demonstrate?
I think we're doing it.
Ah.
I think just by being is yoga. Just by being present, by taking a breath is yoga. Most people think that putting your legs around your head is yoga. But I really believe that yoga is something that we do all the time with consciousness of being and breath work.
Beautiful. So this is your yoga pose?
My yoga, oh, I get it.
That's one of yours. Innovation and creativity are so important here at Salesforce and in your work. What I'm wondering is, how do you bring together, what's your personal experience of bringing together mindfulness and the creative process? How does it support your creative process as a designer and as a visionary?
I think what happened for me is I was on the go 24/7, constantly moving, constantly going, constantly creating. And I seem to have what I would call this all. I had an amazing husband, family, children, and I started doing yoga when I was 18 years old. That was pretty early. That was just about 3 years ago. But since recently, I realized that there needed to be something that I was missing. There was something else out there in the world today, that I was constantly dressing people and constantly putting out, but I wasn't addressing them. And it was great putting them in divine clothing and things like that, but I found myself in the dressing room and realizing that there was a person that I wasn't speaking to. It was that inner person. And it became sort of a mandate one that I got very involved with so many people, realizing what their life was about, what they were going through. With their children, with their husbands, with their wives, with their people they work with. And I realized that there needed to be another form of work habits. That I could no longer just dress people, but I needed to address them as well.
How did that, it's beautiful, how did it affect your sense of creativity and responding, whether it's in design or tuning into people? Here are the folks at Salesforce and so forth, they're also trying to be open to creativity. Can you say anything about what that creative process is like and what it means to bring your yoga or mindfulness into your visionary creativity?
I think giving and sharing, which was so articulately put out there today, that it's never about me, it's about the we, and our consciousness of caring for another human being is rather selfish, I have to say.
because the more we care, the more we get out of it for ourselves. So just by sharing and caring for another human being is a tremendous gift that you give to yourself.
So in some way, the creativity is supported by your tuning into that other person, as Larry talked about, and others, and somehow having that connection enhances your ability to be responsible and creative.
You know, when people said to me, Haiti, why Haiti? I mean, that was a mind blowing for me. You know, I had no idea what I was doing when I was going down to Haiti. It all started by a woman who was running our urban Zen center was Haitian. She says, Donna, you've got to do something for Haiti. And I said, well, where is Haiti? I didn't even know. And the first place I thought of was Bali. Bali for me is sort of a model for what I see the rest of the world being. Bali has a place of creativity. It has people who care and share like no other place I've ever been to. And I realized that to create a community of consciousness and caring and sharing, by being able to access that which they know, is a way to create a community. And in Haiti, I found out that practically everybody was creative. And for me, that was just a playground.
Can you tell a story about what it was like when you got to Haiti and what you saw or something?
Well, I had a vision, but of course, like most visions, that's not necessarily the way it's going to happen now. You have to experience your vision. When I went down to Haiti, I realized that I wanted to create a singular community where I would plant bamboo because of the deforestation of the entire community. And it seemed like the most obvious thing to do. And I said, well, what is the most, two most creative areas in Haiti? And they said, Jacques Water Bouquet. And I said, oh, what a great name for a fragrance, Water Bouquet. What do they grow? Vetiver. Great, so we could grow vetiver, make it into a fragrance, and all of a sudden that would create jobs. Then I realized that in every place that I went, there was another spark of talent. And of course, the designer that I am got right into it. And I started saying, where'd that come from? Where'd that come from? And I would get to know the designers, creative designers, and then realize that education is so vitally important that I wasn't dealing with just a regular culture where it was a 9-to-5 type of education, and I was meeting with all these artists who had no education background. And I realized that I couldn't go ahead and recreate the norm of what people would think of as education. So we brought in vocational education, because I figured if I would give them a job, then it would be easier for them to support themselves and then to be able to help their other children. So Haiti became a place for me that is sort of a model of what I see in all the developing world, that creating a community, creating a space and a place where people can create, to give them jobs, to be able to create schools. In the schools that we do that, we bring meditation, we bring yoga into the educational system, so that there's really a heart and a soul to what we're doing in the country.
And you've done the same thing with urban Zen then in hospital settings. So what you're trying to do in Haiti, it sounds like you also go to another difficult area, which is people who are in crisis. The people there, or their families who are overwhelmed, or the doctors and nurses and so forth. How did that start?
Well, the inspiration, my entire life was born around birth and death. And I've just finished writing my book right now. So it's just about coming to come out. And it really just started when I was 3 years old and my dad died. And then after that, my mother died and my boss died, and I was constantly around birth and death. And seeing what was missing in the hospital system. And it became very obvious, particularly with my husband. He had lung cancer. And he used to call me and my woo-woos, as he would call them, because I had my yoga teachers there, I had my meditation people there, I had my essential oils there, and I had all of the tools that I needed. But soon he realized that he needed the tools. because my husband was being treated for lung cancer. And in the hospital, they were treating his lung cancer. But where was he being treated as a whole person? So I realized at that point that I had the opportunity and I had the awareness of what he needed. So we would go into the hospitals and we'd bring the essential oils and everybody would go, what's that? I want that, I want that. Or we would be doing Reiki and they go, oh, can I have that too? And I realized that each and every single one of us is a patient. Every single one of us is a loved one. And there was something really wrong with our healthcare system today. We were missing two major elements. One is, where is the care in healthcare? And the other is, where is direction? Because we find out you've got whatever you've got. Where do I go? Patient navigation. So it seems like that's an awfully large pillar to take on. How do you change our healthcare system? How do we change our educational system? And the way to do it is the way we're doing it right now. Inviting all the people to realize that each one of us is a patient and each one of us is the loved one. And how can we change that healthcare and educational system?
Do you get resistance from the hospitals and the places that you're trying to change?
Yes.
And what do you do with that? How do you,
We've already
this is
changed.
all, Salesforce is also all about change, but there's resistance when we try to make change.
It takes meditation. I think we have to be very centered and very guided to realize that we're here with purpose. We're here with purpose to make that change. And what are the changes that need to be made in our environmental system today? Education definitely needs a change. If we would have every child be doing yoga and meditation before class starts, could you imagine how much more knowledge they would have? That would be extraordinary. So each and every one of us is affiliated with a school or has a child, and we should be delivering that message. So it's sort of a chain of action. And as far as hospitals go, my call out to most people when I meet them into every single area is take a look at how we can change the hospital system. Because we're all going to be there. How do we want to be taken care of in the hospital system? So it really is individually up to us. I mean, certainly at Urban Zen, I said, well, this is great. I see the opportunity, and we've trained 700 integrative therapists by now, and we're in hospitals throughout the country. But it really does take the community who really wants to make the change.
So when you use the word Zen, Urban Zen, can you say something about Zen, how that fits for you?
I'm starting to think I should name the company Urban Chaos. Because I figured I was a lot better in the chaos area than I am in the Zen area. I think if you put it out there, it will happen. So I put out the word urban, where we have so much chaos. How do we find calm in chaos? Urban Zen.
So Zen in that way represents for you finding that still center in the middle of all the chaos. World
And
life.
certainly New York is a place of utter chaos, as we all know.
So tell me about your own practice. Do you practice Zen? It sounds like you practice yoga. What's worked for you?
My morning practice every day it's my time. And I'm very selfish about that. There's a lot of things that I'm not selfish about, but my morning is my time. And the first thing I do every morning is I do yoga and meditation. So that's how I start my day every day. And I try to get my meditation in at night, but it's usually so late that I'm usually a little bit tired. I try to do it in the office as well, to give myself a little bit, even if it's a little 10 minutes or on the car ride or where I'm going, to take that breath work and find that centering in myself before going out and starting that day.
What do you do when you meditate? What kind of meditation do you do? Because there are different kinds. Meng talked about using the breath. Tara talked about naming what's happening in your experience and your emotions. How do you do it?
First of all, I ground myself. I start with my breath work. start from the top. Close my eyes. Take a breath in. I have a mantra.
And you use your mantra after that as the way to quiet the mind and settle yourself. And does it take very long to find after even a few minutes, or does it take a long time?
I can go down very quickly.
Yeah.
You know, it's really kind of fun. I can go on and I can go off. Once I go off, it's hard for me to come back sometimes. I like to stay there.
Yeah, so then there's the question of, all right, now I'm in this place, how do I bring it back into the chaos?
And all of a sudden, this amazing amount of calm all around me. I finally find that Zen moment. That breath work.
And then can you carry it back into the design process and into the work?
Absolutely.
So, do you still find times when having that as a tool, where there's stress or anxiety or setbacks, reviews of all the work you do or something, where it's difficult? How do you work with that?
I find there's a balance between the two. I think by nature, I'm a doer. I think every part of my being is visceral. So I like the feel and touch of everything. So I'm extremely, extremely sensitive. So whether it be my feet that I'm feeling, or my calves that I'm feeling, or my hands that I'm feeling, is that whole kind of Zen type of feeling inside my own self. But I also have that feeling towards others.
So
as I can look around here and I see so many people here, it's like this tremendous heartfelt love and compassion for all the people sitting here today, knowing that within this group, how much change can occur.
So it sounds like the quieting really leads you pretty spontaneously, not just to be embodied, but somehow to your heart, to compassion or connection with others.
So it's a form of life, and it's a form of love. I'm very attached to nature. Nature is a calling for me. You know, whether it be the water and the sky, and, you know, as a designer, I'm constantly being inspired by that which is around me. You know, I can't tell you how many collections I've tried to do off the water. And then once I did a collection off the trees, and the leaves on the trees, and I figured, how many colored greens are there? And I did a collection of green that wasn't too successful. My blue collections are much more successful than my green collections, even though I love black.
So I did dress you like that.
Thank you.
So underlying this, as you get quieter, as you somehow open the vision of urban Zen, there's some kind of a dream that you have. It sounds like you talked about it in terms of changing the healthcare system or education. Here are all these folks who are working at Salesforce, many of them anyway, or who come in from the outside. What can you say to us about the dream you carry, or how we can access or be true to our own dreams?
My dream is that in every city, in every community, they find their own urban Zen, to find their calm and their chaos, by creating a community, by creating an office space, to realize, how can we make an effect in the healthcare system? How can we make an effect in the educational system? How can we make an effect in that which touches our heart? Because I don't think, you know, the word philanthropy is being used as such a mass word right now. Everybody feels, well, I have to be philanthropic. I don't think you have to do anything. I think you want to do it. I think it's that drawing force, that why do you love what you love? And I think out of everything on a philanthropic level has to come from one place, and that's from your heart. If something is calling you, that's a call out. If it's unacceptable, you know, I don't want to see the hospitals operating the way they want right now. I want to see meditation going into the educational system. Could you just imagine, just everybody being quiet, is that every time you walk into a place, that you have somebody having a guided meditation before the day starts? How feel you'll be that big. We live in such a world of chaos right now. There is the opportunity of finding the calm. I once had an idea. It's kind of silly, apropos to what we were saying, what you were saying about meditation in the office, that if for 1 minute every single day you touch one person and be silent for 1 moment, so there would be a oneness, a complete connection of one, and it would start where the sun rose. So where is that? Where's the sun rose?
Apparently in the east, but you could pick this spot because it's always rising.
Where the sun is rising. But at that time when the sun rose, everybody would touch one person at 1 o'clock every single day for 1 minute. The world will reconnect to this one.
So this is beautiful. It's a little bit connected to Meng's vision of creating world peace. He's very simple and immediate way. Is there any formal way you bring these principles into the work at DKNY or your design work and all the people that work for you, or is it that you just encourage people?
No, Urban Zen is actually a form of a community, and there are Urban Zen centers, and we do work right here in San Francisco. We're about to start at UCF. What is it?
UCSF at the medical center.
UCSF is starting to bring the Urban Zen integrated therapy system into there, which is going to be absolutely fantastic, which I'm very excited about. We're at UCLA right now, in LA. So it is a question of, one, finding out where there are Urban Zen integrated therapists that are in your community. We have a website, which all the information is right there. Or if you want to take your own Urban Zen integrated therapist experiential training, which I think is as important for you yourself to take the training as it is to have training. Because once you're trained within it yourself, and that's because there's no question, every single one of us is going to be hit by something. And we have to find that calm in chaos. So first of all is learning how to take care of yourself, and then learning how to take care of that which you love.
And I'll just go back. Did you use it in an explicit way or translate it also into your business in the way that people work there in that work environment and work with you or for you?
Absolutely. First of all, at Donna Karan, sorry. I just got way back. I was in such calm I thought about 40 years ago. But at Donna Karan, we used to have meditation there, we did yoga there. I was a high proponent of it at all times.
So I'm hearing an invitation from you, first for people to look at Urban Zen and its trainings, including what's coming to San Francisco. But the second is that in the work environment as well as in the Urban Zen work, you created spaces and invitation and possibility for people to use these tools.
Absolutely. There are Urban Zen integrated therapists that can come work in the environment. We've been asked to work in business environments as well as in hospitals right now. We've been asked to work in assisted living. Assisted living has become a major, major part of the Urban Zen integrated therapist program.
So these are all places where there's both suffering, or some of them anyway, hospitals or assisted living and so forth, and then where these tools can make an immediate difference.
Absolutely.
And then
I highly recommend essential oils as a tool for yourself. You know, I can see it in every single hotel room that all you have to do is push on a button of a TV and have a guided meditation, have the essential oils be in every single room. I mean, there's no reason for us not to be living a life such as this and being exposed to it as much as possible.
I hope it's true. I hope it happens at Salesforce and spreads out from all the people who are listening online, the vision that you carry. And mostly, I just want to thank you for the beautiful work
my own.
Thank you.
So let's talk about business for a moment.
Meanwhile, you get to take a breath and relax, and I do as well. One of my teachers used to have us begin with a standing meditation, and his instruction would be this. He would say, I want you to stand, feet spread apart, that's perfect. And close your eyes, and not move at all for 30 seconds. Not have your body move at all. Be absolutely and perfectly still. So everyone can close their eyes and try to do it. And you can't. Your body's always moving and adjusting no matter how hard you try to find that place and say, all right, I'm not going to move anything. Gravity, muscles, breeze in the room, and you realize after 30 seconds, and they'll say, all right, how many were able to do it? And not a single hand goes up. And then you would just laugh and you'd say, so the point of mindfulness, and the point of meditation isn't to find something that you hold on to, okay, now I have it, but to become the space of awareness, the space of kind of gracious attention that Meng and Tar and others have been talking about, and Donna, that allows for movement and finds that center of rest in the middle. I saw a poster in a health food store in Santa Cruz years ago, and it showed a picture of an Indian guru. I think it was Swami Satchidananda. And this was before Photoshop. He was wearing a little orange loincloth, standing in the tree pose on one leg, but he was balanced on the surfboard on a big wave. It was really rather impressive as a yoga feat. And it said underneath, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. Meditate with Swami Satchidananda or something like that. It was a really great advertisement for what's possible, which isn't to stop the world, but to find that capacity that you have for balance in the midst of it. And as we've been talking in the conversations with Larry, Padmasree, Meng, and others, it turns out that it's integrated not only within yourself and within the company and all the beautiful things that Salesforce is doing to bring a level of care and aloha and dedication not only to yourselves but to the world around you, that it's really clear that no amount of technological development, no amount of nanotechnology, biotechnology, extension of internet and connectivity and networks and so forth is going to stop continuing warfare, stop continuing racism, stop continuing environmental destruction and tribalism, that the outer developments that we in the technological world and in the modern world are seeing change our lives so much have to be met by the developments of inner capacity, or we will destroy ourselves in some way or other or suffer enormously. And so this becomes a time, and it's partly why what's happening in Salesforce also is a part of this visionary leadership. The notion that the outer development and the outer connection that we make with one another now has to be paired with humanity's inner development. And I remember there was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff who at one point said, we're a nation of nuclear giants and ethical infants. And if we don't pair the development of connection and interconnection, and interdependence and compassion with the tools that we have, we're on the road to greater and greater unhappiness. And when I was living as a Buddhist monk years ago in the forest monasteries, I never imagined speaking to a crowd like this, or that there would be this widespread interest in mindfulness and compassion and so forth. And I'd gone to an Ivy League college, and I realized that it only gave me half of the education that I needed. And this really piggybacks on what you were saying, Donna. It didn't teach me how to deal with the suffering in my family. I had a brilliant scientist father who was also violent and abusive and a wife batterer. It didn't teach me how to deal with the trauma. It didn't teach me how to deal with my own emotions, my own anger, how to deal with conflict. It didn't teach me how to stay true to myself or listen to myself or how to make a love relationship or how to love others. All those things were absent in some way from the so-called best education that the West has to offer. And so I needed to learn those things that are now validated by 2 or 3 decades of neuroscience research and 4,000 papers that have been studied, that I learned by going into the Buddhist monastery and doing the very trainings that we're speaking about today, that don't require to be a Buddhist or go to a monastery. The good thing is they can be done here at Salesforce. And I've also learned that they're not about perfecting yourself in some way. I mean, I think about my daughter when she was a teenager and we were in conflict of something or other and having a hard time with her, and I was getting upset, and she just looked at me and she said, "Dad, I think it's time for you to go and meditate." I love the poem from Zen Master Ryokan, favorite in Japan. He wrote, "Last year a foolish monk, this year no change." So the idea isn't to perfect yourself, but it's to perfect your love, or perfect your capacity to be present for the world with an open heart. And this was more than anything the trainings in yes and wisdom and centeredness and perspective, but more than anything, it was the training in being present for myself and those around me with the spirit of compassion or loving kindness that Meng had us do those, 10 seconds of. And I've seen how valuable it is, because now I've worked with, yes, the Dalai Lama, but also with CEOs of big companies around the world and in law and business settings and in schools like Stanford and Berkeley and Harvard and so forth. And people say, well, all right, how practical is this really? So I want to show in a moment a video of a conversation with a good friend, Bill Ford, who at that time was the CEO of Ford Motors, now the chairman. And he was having a really difficult time in the economic meltdown when he said, "I'm about to lose my company and the industry on my watch. What do I do?" So let's see this video, please.
So let's talk about business for a moment, because business is driven by bottom line. Whether it's big corporations or startups, people are still looking for their funders and then how to, create a business plan that's successful. And in a big company like yours, there's a lot of metrics, but there's the online metrics too. You're watching to see who's clicking on your site and all of that. And those they can easily take over as the decision-making points. What is it going to do to our metrics? What's it going to do to our bottom line? How do you apply mindfulness or wisdom within a business culture?
And that was one of the very first questions that I asked you all those years ago. Was see, I remember what he told me. He doesn't remember the answers, but I remember them. But it's great. You did. I asked you that. I said, how can one have humanity in a place that's all driven by metrics? And I worked for bosses that I thought that's all they were metrics, literally, because all they talked about is all they cared about. And I thought, boy, if that's my future, forget it. And I'll never forget, some of the CEOs, and it was not just CEOs, some of the higher-ranking executives that I saw in my lifetime. I was very lucky to have grown up with the Ford Motor Company, and so I saw all the top people from the time literally I was born, not just from when I joined the company. And I saw so many of them lose their humanity along the way. It really was terrifying to me. I'll never forget my very first meeting I was in. we were in the middle of a subject with a senior executive, and I had just joined the company, and the meeting ended in sort of in mid-sentence, and I said to somebody, what just happened? And they said, oh, he finished his cigar. When he finishes his cigar, the meeting's ends. I thought, you've got to be kidding me. And then we had a CEO who thought it was a sign of weakness if you went to the bathroom. And so if you were an executive, you had to sit in 8-hour meetings, and I thought, this is just sheer madness. We had another one who said to me later on, you think you'd like to be CEO? Let me show you my calendar. And he laid it out and he said, if you want to have lunch with me, it would have to be 3 years out. I don't have a single lunch or dinner or breakfast free between now and then. And and that's when I started calling you frantically saying, look, I think at the end of the day, metrics are always important in a business, and they have to be, because you have to be able to measure success. But I also think you can model humanity in a way that people can pick up on. I mean, I think that the nature of corporations are that, people will mimic what they see above them in terms of the hierarchy. And whether that's a good or bad thing, it's a reality. And I've come to realize that over the years. And so, when I choose, the next generation of leaders, to me, behaviors is, certainly equally important and never less important than skill and ability, because I've seen a lot of really skilled, metric-driven executives make just poor, and Ariane talked about that this morning, some of the brightest people in the world make some of the worst decisions, and I think it's because they've completely lost touch or shut out humanity.
You look at it at CEO level about not losing your humanity, or somehow both remembering what we'd say in the Buddhist tradition, remembering your Buddha nature and your sales report, and having them somehow held in the same respect. And what we're talking about today, I realize that sort of doing a sales pitch, which is appropriate for Salesforce. Sometimes I'll even be on the plane and somebody will be sitting next to me and say, what do you do? And I'll say, well, I'm in sales, actually. Mindful sales, anyway. But the question is, how does it affect us in an individual way, in a personal way? Yes, Bill talks about it at the CEO level. So there was a young Army lieutenant who was angry, flew off the handle very easily, got upset. So his superior officer remanded him to do an 8-week mindfulness training course, which is happening in the military now. I'm very happy about it, and I wanted to go up the chain of command all the way, but that's another thing. Anyway, so he did it, and after about 6 weeks of training to be mindful of his breath and his body, as Tara was teaching us, and naming what was happening, he was on his way home. He went to the supermarket. It was the evening, it was crowded, everybody was there in long lines. And the woman in front of him was in the wrong line. She had only one item. She should have been in the express line. And he was one of those people, the military reinforced it, that you have to do it right. So he was a little annoyed. And then she got up to the checkout clerk. She was carrying a baby. And they started to coo over the baby. You know how it happens. And he got more irritated. And then she handed the baby to the checkout clerk. And he rolled his eyes, and they're talking about the baby, get more and more angry, like, doesn't she know how all of us are in line waiting? She's got to be more aware of everything. And he could feel the anger rise in his body, irritation, but because he'd been starting his mindfulness training in only some weeks, he began to realize this isn't helping anybody. He took a few breaths, he noticed the anger, he let it relax, and by the time he got up to the checkout clerk, he realized it was sort of there's a sweet little boy, so he said to her, that was kind of a cute kid you were holding back there. And the woman looked at him and said, oh, do you like him? He's my baby. You see, my husband was in the military like you, but he was killed in Afghanistan last year. And so now I have to work full time. And my mom takes care of my boy, and she brings him in once a day so I can see him. And we are so quick to to judge one another as human beings, or, as Tara pointed out, we're so quick to judge ourselves. And one of the great gifts of mindful practice in this very simple way is it allows you to take a breath, it allows you to center yourself and pause, and somehow step from that place of judgment to a place of receptivity. So building on this, let's just do a quick minute of meditation or two of mindfulness training. Let your eyes close, settle yourself where you're seated. And as you do, I want you to take 8 deep breaths. And feel each breath as you do it. A deep breath and then let the breath out. And after the last breath, sense the spaciousness or the calm or the quiet that comes just not from 8 weeks of training, but 8 breaths. And let yourself rest in it. Feel that this is available to you. It's not far away. Acknowledge it. It's always here for you. Let your eyes open again. It's actually this easy to start with. We tend to be lost in thought. My friend Annie Lamott, she writes, "My mind is like a bad neighborhood. I try not to go there alone." So that's why we're doing this together at first. And we get lost in our habits of thoughts. And then just do what you did of taking a number of breaths and then finding that calm center, that sweet spot, which is like taking a half step back and being bemused, even if you're all caught up like that Army lieutenant was, or like Bill Ford was, unable to sleep at night. You can say, well, I'm losing it again. And there's some place in mindfulness that gives a spacious and wise perspective that empowers you to make different decisions and to listen not just to the fear, but also to listen from the heart. Now, it's very practical. There's a saying at Salesforce, we help make your customers love you, which is a fantastic vision. I think you also help to make each other's colleagues and co-workers love one another. And love requires, in some way, a presence and an empathy, as we know. You want to have metrics with heart in some fashion. So Tara started us with a mindfulness meditation, and a complement to this mindfulness meditation, which Meng began to instruct us in, or give the tools, is the practice of compassion or care. So to build on what we started with, let's do a little bit more practice together, both some mindfulness and then some of this compassion or loving care. So again, in whatever way that's comfortable for you, check your body, sit in a way that your feet are flat on the floor, you're grounded a bit, allow your eyes to close gently if you're comfortable. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, you can keep them open a little bit. Again, you don't have to assume some weird posture. You just become yourself, seated here in this human form, halfway between heaven and earth, taking your seat, your place on it. And begin simply by noticing your experience now, the state of your body as you sit here, with a kind attention. And then notice the state of your heart and mind as well. And you can name it gently, what you notice. Tired or bored, if that's there, that's fine. Because usually if we're bored or restless, what do? Open the refrigerator or go online. Here you can just acknowledge it, bored, tired, or maybe there's excitement or interest. And you can simply acknowledge as if to bow to it. This is part of the human experience right now. Notice how the acknowledgement of what's present allows you to rest in a more spacious and gracious mindfulness, an awareness that's not so caught by what's here in your experience. Things are just as they are now. It's very simple Zen way. And you become the space of mindfulness and kindness that says, yes, this too. Steady, aware. And now deliberately bring in the quality of loving awareness and compassion. And think of someone you love a lot that's not very conflicted, where it's quite easy. Picture them, it might be a child or a dear friend or a loved one. And as you think of them in the space of stillness, then offer them the well-wishing of loving thoughts. May you be well. May you be safe. May you be held in love. May you be healthy and strong. And all these beautiful wishes, and feel how good it is to wish this for someone you care about. And now imagine that you can spread that feeling of and thoughts of well-wishing out to this whole room, that everyone seated here is wishing well to someone they love, and you can wish well to them too. May you all be held in loving kindness, care, and safe and protected. Be strong in body and mind. And imagine that we can extend these thoughts and feelings out across the whole world, across the city of San Francisco and the North American continent and the globe, to beings everywhere, all breathing with us, all held in the great spirit of compassion and mindfulness. Thank you for this. Let your eyes open, a little refreshment of loving kindness. And then I want us to do one more practice in the last 10 minutes or so that we have. And this is how you take these trainings into difficulties. So this is a little bit of a visualization. Again, if you're move your body a tiny bit, be comfortable, and then let your eyes close one more time. It's one thing to talk about these practices, it's another to really begin to internalize and get your own capacity to do it. So as Tara had directed, but now we'll take it another step and deepen. Let yourself think of a time, of a circumstance in your life where there's significant difficulties. It could be at work, it could be at home. And picture yourself back in the middle of these difficulties when it gets bad or hard for you. Notice how your body feels when you're in the midst of them. And notice too what spirit you bring to them, what emotions are present, how you're reacting, what it's like when it's tough. Let yourself really see it. And feel it. And there you are in the midst of the difficulties, and all of a sudden there's a knock at the door, or a ring of the doorbell, or if you're outside even, someone is coming along and you don't know who's coming. You let yourself be surprised when you say, "Excuse me a moment, I have to go out." And you exit from that room or those people that you're with, and you discover that who is coming in a moment is a luminous being. It could be Mother Mary or Buddha or Solomon or Gandhi, or if you want a business person, maybe it's Warren Buffett or Padmasree, some great wisdom figure comes. And they're luminous. And they walk right up to you, and they say, having a hard day, and you say, yeah. And they say, let me show you how I might handle this. Let's switch places. You get to be invisible, and I'll be in your body now. And I'll go back and show you how I would do it. So now inside your body is the Dalai Lama or Mother Mary or some great being, and you follow them back in, and notice how their body feels as they walk into this difficulty. And notice what spirit they bring to it. How they listen or respond. And let them begin to show you how they would navigate this conflict or difficulty. Listen, the spirit that they bring to it, and how it unfolds from their presence. I'm finishing up with this for now. They finish up for the moment. And then they say to whomever they're with, excuse me a moment, I have to go out again. Excuse me, please. And you follow them back to the place where you met them, and they give you back your body and resume their luminous form. And before they leave, they reach under their robes or into their pocket and pull out a gift for you, a clear symbol of just what you need to help you navigate these difficulties. You can see it, imagine it, envision it. It's not clear. Hold it up to the sunlight. The symbol of just what you need. And finally, they touch you kindly on the shoulder, and they whisper into your ear a few words of advice. Listen, hear, imagine, sense what they have to say, how to navigate. Taking the gift and the symbol and the teachings they offered and the words of wisdom, now let your eyes open again and come back to this room. So in the first 30 seconds, my guess is, not everyone can do this, but most people can, that you had an image of some being, of Gandhi or Mother Mary or Solomon or Buddha or somebody like that. How many had somebody come in to visit you? Raise your hand. The majority of hands. The question is, where do they live? Where does the Dalai Lama and Gandhi and Mother Mary and Solomon live? Duh. Right? It took 30 seconds and the room filled with saints and people with great wisdom because they're here to be accessed in a moment in our heart. Now, how did your body feel when you went into that difficulty? People will say tense, contracted, tight, frustrated, frightened. How did their body feel? Relaxed, gracious, easy, open. You even know how your body would feel. The intelligence is there within you already. You know what it's like to enter that room as this figure, as the Dalai Lama, as Mahatma Gandhi, as Mother Mary. You know what it feels like. And you remember the spirit of listening they brought in and the way that they listened with mindfulness and compassion. And then you get your gifts. And people will say, well, the gift that was given to me was a mirror. I have to look at my side of what's making this difficult. Or The gift that was given to me was a red heart that had a crack in it, and I realized that this is actually what's going to touch my heart, even though it's difficult. Or what was given to me was a sword of clarity, to cut through all the BS and just speak the truth. And those symbols are gifts that your own heart and psyche know as wisdom, just as the words may have come. Remember kindness, perhaps someone said to you, or don't take it so personally, or this is all workable. The words of wisdom also come from your heart. So what mindfulness and the complement of training of compassion teaches you as you practice it, as Meng said, it teaches you to trust in yourself. It teaches you to trust in this best of who you are, in your own true nature, in the blessings that you carry as a human being that was born into you, to empower the best of you, and to say whenever you're in a difficulty, what is the best thing that I can do here? To take that sacred pause and ask, what is my best intention? And all of a sudden you are filled by that quiet and mindfulness with the understanding and wisdom that you always have had and is just there for you to touch. And so as I end, this kind of empowerment that's offered to you in the practice, because there's no such thing as a one-walk dog. You have to get your dog and walk it every day. You have to practice this. Is I put it in your good hands with a tiny story. A local school principal here in San Francisco liked to make sandwiches for homeless people. Several days a week after work, if she wasn't tired, she took the pleasure of making the sandwiches and going out in the Tenderloin and distributing them. And she didn't care if people thanked her. Sometimes she was refused. She wasn't doing it for the kudos, but because people were hungry and she felt that it was the right thing to do. And after some time, the local media found out about it, and she became a kind of mild celebrity in her area. Inspired by her work, the colleagues and teachers began to send her money for her ministry. To their surprise, they all received their money back with a short note that read, "Make your own damn sandwiches." So I leave it in your good hands, and I celebrate what you're doing for service.
Thank you, Jack. That was really beautiful. So, to conclude, let's talk about the future. And let's talk about the same qualities that all of our teachers and speakers have been sharing with us today, and how these relate to the next generation, to our children. And so to do that, I'm really excited today to welcome here somebody who you all know and love. Somebody who, over the years, has provided much joy and happiness and laughter and inspiration to us. So, Goldie Hawn is, as you know, an amazing Academy Award-winning actress, producer, author, child advocate, and inspiration. And over the past several years, through her Hawn Foundation, has started Mind Up, which brings together cognitive neuroscientists, positive psychologists, educators, and experts in the field of mindful awareness training to bring that curriculum to teachers, to parents, and to children in schools. And to date, they have shared that curriculum with over 400,000 children. So it's a real honor today to welcome to this stage Goldie Hawn.
Well, I just have to say one thing. I'm not going to talk about comedy, but I have something that could be falling off in any second, so if it does, just have a big hoot. It's fallen off several times. So it's a great joy to be here. It's wonderful to see everybody. I just want to thank Jack for a beautiful moment, because we all need those. I thought that Donna, you were wonderful. Today is a really special day. Dreamforce is an amazing place. It gives us a place to really look at our future and understand and imagine it differently. And right now what we do have is an incredible ability because of Salesforce and Mark Benioff and beautiful Lynn, his wife, to be able to give us the opportunity to understand how we can improve our lives and our heart, our spirit, our health, in every way, relationships through mindfulness. So, but what I'm going to start talking about actually is about my life, really, because why am I up here? Why me? You know, I don't have a PhD in psychology, and I'm not necessarily preaching meditation all over the world. This isn't what I do, but I live my life in a certain way with certain aspects and ideas, and I want to share with you how I got here. You know, so one of the beginnings of my life is that I started dancing. And dancing was really my beautiful, beautiful moment. I was 3 years old. And when I kept dancing, I was happy. And this is something that I enjoyed because I think my true seed, my nature, I was born with a fairly high set point of happiness. And then when I became 11, something happened. I was in school, and all of a sudden I heard, oh, we're going to go down to the visual aids room. And we're going to go watch a movie. And I was so excited. I thought, oh good, we're going to watch how corn is grown in Iowa. Well, frankly, that's not exactly what I saw. What I saw was 9, 8, 7, 6, and so forth. And suddenly, and it was just annihilation. And the bomb went off, and then they panned annihilation of children, and mothers crying, and children lost, and fathers with blood. And I'm looking at this, and I'm 11. And I'm a sensitive child. And my brain isn't finished yet until I'm 24, which I didn't know. And I started to shake. I said, wait a minute. My life is, I could die tomorrow. Duck and cover? I mean, I'm going to get under a desk and that's going to save my life from an atom bomb? That we're going to be annihilated as a country and our life is going to be over and I will never get to kiss a boy? I won't live that long? I was shaking. And I said to the teacher, I need to go home. I need to go home because my mom's making lunch for me. And she said, Goldie, you never go home for lunch. I said, I know, but I do. And I ran home. I called my mother from the store. I said, Mommy, we're all going to die. And I'm going to die. And I'm scared. What happened to you, Goldie? What did you see? I said, they showed me a film. And everything, and it's all about the bomb and how Russia's going to bomb us. And she came home, rushed home in her pointy shoes and straight skirt. She was so cute. And she came home and she said, what are they showing you? What are they showing you in school? And she picks up the phone after she explained to me that Russia and everything's going to be fine. We both have the bomb and nobody wants to die. Although it stuck with me for many, many years. She called the Department of Education and said, excuse my French, what the hell are you doing with our kids? What are you teaching them? You think that they can absorb this information? You think that these children are able to understand what you're trying to say? This is propaganda given to the children. It affected my mind until I left high school. I wouldn't go to school if there was a siren blowing. When we had air raid, I was too frightened. I couldn't think. I was so scared. And when there was a fire truck that went by, I would pick up the phone, I'd call the operator, I'd say, excuse me, is this an enemy attack? And she'd say, I don't know, dear, what you're talking about. I said, well, I know, but I'm hearing the siren. I wasn't in my own mind. And that same year, when I was 11 years old, people said to me, what do you want to be when you grow up, Goldie? And I remember saying, I want to be happy. And they said, oh no, we know you're a dancer. What do you want to be? Do you want to be a movie star? Do you want to dance on Broadway? And I remember looking up at them saying, no, That's what I wanted to be. What I wanted to do was something different. What I want to do, how I want to behave, my life, that's different. I wanted to be happy. And it was something that I tried, first and foremost, that my life was going to be about enjoying and feeling happiness deep inside. I then went to New York and I became a dancer, and then from being a dancer, I was then asked to come dance in Los Angeles. And I was actually making money and doing the things I wanted to do. I was trained to be a dancer. And my dream was dance, go home, open a dancing school, get married, and be happy. That was a dream. We're at Dreamforce. We all have our dreams. I had a dream. It was a good dream. It made sense. It was normal. And when people say to me, do you want to be a movie star? I said, oh, first of all, it's unrealistic. But secondly, no, because they're so messed up. I wanted a real life. I wanted a life with a white picket fence and all the things that I imagined would bring me happiness, including children and a lovely husband and a wonderful stove and all the things that we thought in those days would create security and love. But something happened. And that was that my dream, which was moving along very nicely, frankly, because I had been asked to do a television show, which was amazing, and I was dancing on a show, and then there was an agent that walked up to me, 12 beautiful girls dancing on a television show, and he came up to me and he said, oh, do you have an agent? And I went, no, I don't really, I don't have an agent, but you know, I'm just a dancer and all that. And he said, well, I would like to see you. And I went, well, yeah, sure, but you know. And I went back to dancing on the show. I got a call and he said, we're waiting for you at the William Morris agency. You were supposed to be here on Wednesday. I got in my car. My car had, well, it didn't have a floor really, but I could, the hole was so big in the floor that I could see the street. And then every time I made a right-hand turn, my left-hand door flew open. So I had to hold it that way and the whole thing. And then I ended up right there at William Morris, really rushed in, next thing I know, signed me. And I went up for an audition, and I got a job. And I was suddenly pulled out of the chorus, and I was put into a television show. And shouldn't I have been happy? Oh, I'm doing a 3-camera show at Desilu Studios. Mom, Dad, my life has changed. Everything's different. Something happened then, and that was that I got depressed, and I started to have anxiety attacks. I started to feel scared. My life had changed. I know it sounds crazy, but what happened to my dream? What happened to my white picket fence? What happened to my husband, wherever he was? What happened to dancing school? What happened to dancing on television for as long as my legs could keep me going and then make a new life? I had it all planned out. So I became anxious. I had panic attacks. I couldn't go into public without throwing up. What was happening? Goldie, can I have your autograph? Why? Well, I was destabilized, just like I was in school. We're tender. We're all tender. We all have brains that get messed up. We get scared. We get depressed. We've had panic attacks. This amazing brain that we have that does amazing things can also work against us. I went to a doctor and I saw a psychologist. I wanted to find out more about myself because, as Socrates said, a life unexamined is no life. It isn't worth living. I was examining my life. It was important because I wanted to return back to my smile, return back to happiness. And I spent 9 years studying my own mind my own reasons, my own causes for joy, happiness, sorrow, my relationships with my parents, and my relationships with the people in my life. I learned a lot about the mind. I learned a lot about psychology. I learned a lot about myself. But something extraordinary happened in 1971, which brings me closer to what we're here for today. And that is, I was initiated with TM, and I started meditating. And I remember my very first experience in meditation. And I don't know, it's very difficult to put into words oftentimes, almost like love is hard to express. But it's difficult because it's a visceral experience. It was an experience that I had, that I felt like when I was initiated and I was given my mantra, and I was sitting there in Westwood, California, and I walked into a room with incense burning and a rose on the altar, and a new mantra, something that I could say over and over that sounded beautiful. And the window was open, and there was lace in the curtain, and the breeze was coming through. All my senses were alive. And when I went down deep into myself, into my mantra, my heart opened. I met myself for the first time in a long time. I could feel the seed of joy that was happening naturally. I think we're born with it. And when you really get down in there, you feel it. You feel this incredible sense of well-being and joy and power. Power to love, power to forgive. You're right there in that moment, and I will never forget how it ignited so much of my spirit and so much of my pure joy, which is deep. So it became my practice for many, many years. And then after I had practiced for many years, I continued to study because it's what I do. I'm fascinated with it as much as I love my career as an actress. I'm interested in other things, which all of us are, I'm sure. And I studied the brain. And I started looking into the brain and the causes for certain things and habituation and all of the aspects of the brain that actually are connected also to meditation. And then Richard Davidson did this wonderful research, a very, very forerunner, and created, oh my goodness, on the cover of Time magazine, well, look what happens to the brain when you meditate. Well, it's profound, guys. This is science. I mean, I'd love for us all to go under a rock, in Kerala and sit somewhere or on a beach and meditate together. It's a wonderful thing to do. But the truth is that what we're talking about is application. How do we activate these various truths that we're now learning at this time in history? So when we start realizing that we have an aspect of control over our brain because it's what we do, it's what we think, it's how we act, is becoming what we become. Our reality is created by what we think, what we do, and the choices that we make. So we're not out of control. We're not out of control on our reactivity because guess what? We have metacognition. You know what that means? Metacognition. We get to see ourselves. We're a rare bird as humans. So we get to see who and what we're doing. Watching ourselves is so important because it's about awareness. Awareness of who we are. Awareness of our actions. Awareness that it's time to forgive. Awareness that I've said something, that I've hurt someone. Awareness that it's time to love. These are the things that we need to be aware of. Awareness of our anger. Awareness of our reactivity. So as I'm putting all this together in great joy, great excitement, meeting amazing minds, beautiful people that are doing incredible things in the world. I got a phone call. Goldie, I wanted to catch you before you left for school. What's going on? We've just been attacked. 9/11. What? Yeah. The Twin Towers are going down, you've got to turn the television set on. And I sat there with my kid who I was taking to school, and I looked and I said, oh my God, what is happening to us? What is this seed of anger that's taking over the world? What is this polarization that's happening to the world? We were all devastated. We all were shaken and knew that our lives, our world, would never be the same. Would not have the kind of freedom that we have. And we depended on our leaders because we were helpless, sad and helpless. And the only thing that I could do at this time was look in my knitting and find red, white, and blue thread. And I knit the American flag. And I sat there in my chair crying for over a week, paralyzed. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do anything. I want to sit here with my family. I don't want them to go anywhere. I want to be together. And then I remembered how I felt about the war, and I thought I was going to die and never kiss a boy. I thought that my life was over at 11. I felt the trauma, the inability to deal at school, the fear of going to school. Look what happens to your mind when it's in frenzy. Look what happens to us when we don't know what we're going to do when we're scared. Well, there's a reason for that. And there's a way to mitigate that. Because we now understand the brain and we understand the effects of mindfulness, mindfulness attention, meditation, call it what you will. Focused attention can calm us down, calm down the limbic system, calm us down to a point where our executive function can actually take over, make cognitive decisions, critically think appropriately, without the frenzy, the fear, the anger, all the emotions that drive us that are negative. So now what we have is me sitting there with my family thinking, how are we going to change the world? How are we going to create peace? How do we create people to have dialogues? How do we create leaders that are actually going to change the world in a way that's mindful, in a way that isn't ego-driven, in a way that can see a problem from 30,000 feet up? How in the world are we going to do that? And a year later, we went into Iraq and that was it. That's when I sat in my meditation room, contemplating after my meditation. Sometimes I go in my quiet room. Guys, you don't have to meditate. Just sit quietly. Just breathe and sit quietly. You'll be amazed at what comes to your mind. And you'll be amazed at what happens to your heart. In that, I said to myself, how old are you now, Goldie? How long have you been working as an actress? How many years do you want to sit in front of a makeup chair? Because there's work to be done. And I want to help. I know too much now. I know that what's sitting in petri dishes in universities of research is not moving out into the world. Universities are amazing. They do great things. But there's a tendency to move slow, and I'm a producer. And I thought, you know what, let's bring neuroscientists in. Let's bring mindfulness practitioners in. Let's bring teachers in. Let's bring positive psychologists in. Let's bring them into this room and write a curriculum for children that will go into the classroom in order to build not only great leadership, but change the world, because that's how it will happen. Build bigger schools. Keep them after school longer. Our children are depressed. 1 in 5 of our children has a mental disorder of some kind. 15 to 24-year-olds is the second suicide is the second leading cause of death. The second leading cause of death, suicide, 15 to 24 years old. It breaks my heart because they're sad, they're lonely, they're stressed. They have been given no tools to mitigate any of their fears, to mitigate any of their anxieties, their stress. They are so stressed. Oh, let's give them medication. That's going to help. We'll give them pills. That will help them. Worry about their stress, worry about their anxiety. That'll help them focus. This will help them do this. And we have proof that this kind of practice can help them. Why do we need to continue to give our children medication and psychotropics in order to think, to be, to feel? And are we giving any attention to the longitudinal studies at all on the developing brain? The answer is no. So this is my life. Because I have now over 500,000 children doing Mind Up. And Mind Up is a program that incorporates mindfulness. But I believed in my own way of seeing it that if you don't give a child an understanding of their brain and teach them neuroscience, which is exactly what we need to teach them because we ask them to use their brain. Oh, pay attention. Most kids don't even know what that means. We want to strengthen attention. We want to strengthen the brain. We want to strengthen their optimism. Give them tools so they're going to be able to flourish the best they can. And our children need to have joy in their classroom. They need to have a sense of optimism. Our teachers need to be trained differently. They need to go into the youth colleges of our colleges here in the United States and learn not just mindfulness, also learn about the brain. Learn about how gratitude changes the brain. Learn about how habituating positive thoughts changes the brain. It's a dance. It's a dance for evolution. We need to evolve as human beings. We have an amazing capability of creating new ways of being. We're doing that today. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Salesforce. So where I am today, and where our children are today, so you know, and I think a lot of you are wondering, well, what is the practice? And I will share with you that what we're doing is 15 lessons. 15 lessons in 4 pillars. One of them is, let's teach our little ones about the brain. We're in from K until 8th right now, and have been for the last 11 years. And now we're moving into high school with a curriculum. I'm very excited about it. In the meantime, these 7-year-olds are telling me how the brain works. And I'll go into the classroom because this is my joy to be with them in the classroom. It's like why I'm doing it, right? And so I go in and they say, oh, well, do you want to know how the brain works? And I say, yes. And they say, well, the amygdala, which is, we need the amygdala, you know, but I mean, it's there but it gets overactive, and then we get scared, or we get scared about tests or something. He said, we just learn to quiet down the amygdala by taking breaths and doing our mindful breathing, and then we take our brain break, which is what we call it in the classroom, because every brain needs a break. And they get quiet, and they listen to a bell, and they're happy, and they're joyful, and it's 2 minutes. Because then they said, my brain opens up, my prefrontal cortex, and that's my thinking brain, and that's how I activate it. Because otherwise, they won't have anything to do with the hippocampus, which is what remembers everything. So, they love their brain. So when we're teaching neurobiology, when we do our mindful practices, where we do 3 times a day in the classroom, not once, not twice, but 3 times a day in 3-minute breaks. Manage the classroom, manage their ability to attend to things, manage their emotionality, manage their reactivity. And then we do mindful exercises of our senses and wrap all our curriculum around it. So these aren't add-ons, it's changing the way the whole classroom works, the whole classroom feels. It's a happy place. There's no wrong answer about mindfulness. There's no wrong answer about tasting and smelling, because we're all different, amazingly, amazingly different humans. Embrace the diversity of all of us. And the last thing that we do is we do positive psychology, social and emotional learning, if you will. Acts of kindness we do. And they do it in the classroom, and they think about it. Why do we do it? Because it changes the neurological connections of the brain. Because the more you think about happiness, the more your brain wants to think about happiness. The more angry you become, the more angry your brain gets. You get more used to being angry. You look at the negative instead of the positive. So we're now looking at critical thinking. We're looking at perspective taking. So they read books and they think, conversations. Why do you think that character did that? What do you think he was feeling? This puts them in other people's shoes, and we're creating empathy without even saying, now you're going to learn how to be empathetic. Because they just are, by nature. And when you give them these, they do. And then we do gratitude journals, which I think probably some of you have studied gratitude. It's an enormous benefit to our minds and our hearts, because when you do gratitude, it has, this is research, has pulled people out of very depressed states, because we're grateful. So today is the first day of the rest of my life, and it's the first day of the rest of your life. And as I say, I'm not as old as, I'm not as young as I was, never been as old as I am, but I've never been as young as I am right now. Point being, every day is a new day. Every day is a birthday. And I feel that if we can instill some of these feelings into our children, giving them critical ways of dealing with their stress. I don't really want to get into the negative, but as we know, we've had our children from high school jumping off a train here. It's not possible that we've spent $17 million on building fences. You don't have to build fences anymore. You just have to engage in the reality that our children in this day and age need a different kind of education. They need an education that's going to give them tools to live life, tools to have friends, tools to negotiate, tools to deal with conflict, and tools to give them the right to laugh and to smile and to feel lighthearted. So, I am grateful for this today. I am grateful to be here. And I just want to say thank you. And if there's any challenge, it is to remember that the one person that you need to challenge to become better in life for you and for your loved ones and for your children and for your job is to go to the University of You and become the best human being you can possibly become. Thank you.
There's only one way to end the daylight today, which is to invite all of our speakers back up here, please. Please come on up. And as some of you are leaving now, I just want to thank you all for being here, for giving us your time, attention, and intention. And together, I wanted to see if there's anything else that anyone else wanted to offer as we end today.
I'd like to offer a big stretch. Everybody reach your hands. Pull your hands way up and out of them. Oh, gosh. That's a good one.
Thank you.
one thing, be excellent every time. And thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much and goodbye for now.
Dreamforce experience out of Legos. This year I'm hoping to sit right here in the front row. Hello, Dreamforce! What? Check me out! Here I am in the front row. Dreamforce is awesome! I want this! Who are these guys?
They are spending too much time in between leads trying to figure out who they're going to call next. This is a waste of time and we can help mitigate it, okay? So let's talk about the sales problem. The sales problem is your best prospects are 10 times more likely to close.
Guess what? We completely revamped the dashboard. I'm just curious to know if we're actually
can get them in good shape.
Feel free to.
If you